Hey, do you have towels that may have seen better days? You know, beach towels with frayed edges, bath towels that might have some bleach stains on them, any kind of towels. Don't get rid of them. They make great bibs. So we're going to learn how to make a baby bib. So when you print out the pattern, you'll see that you have a top of the bib A piece, a top of the bib B piece, which is a different style, and a bottom of the bib piece. You got to pick out the top that you want, and then you tape it to the bottom of the piece. That's how you get your pattern started. There's registration marks so that you can tape it exactly where it needs to be. That's for a super long bib, maybe an older kid, but you can tape it anywhere along there you want and get the length of the bib that you need for the child in question. So this top of the bib is one that requires a snap in order to get it around the kid's neck. So you have the snap outie and the snap innie, and you have to attach them when you're all done. This top of the bib is one that we're going to attach a neck to, a full turtleneck. And to do that, I use an old t-shirt. So here's my pattern. I'm going to pick this for the top, and I'm going to pick this for the bottom, and I think I want to shrink it up. You know, it could be really long. I think I'm going to make it a little smaller. It's a new baby, and I'm going to tape my pattern. Oh, I've got fuzz on the tape. That's real. Sewing room tape. So I'm just going to place this on my towel. You can see I have a towel that's pretty worn, and I think I'm going to place it like that on my towel. Off, we're going to put a snap on it, and we're going to put binding around the outside edge to keep it from doing any more of that shedding. Now, you can use different kinds of bindings. You can buy it pre-packaged like that. I like to buy the extra wide double fold and pick a color, or you can cut your own binding out of fabric. It's just a 2-inch wide strip. I cut a 2-inch wide strip. I cut 2 of them, the width of the fabric, and then I attach them with a diagonal seam. Then I fold it in half and iron it. I like this color with this purple, so I'm going to use my homemade binding. The best way to go about this is to start on a straight edge, and I'm going to work my way around with the raw edges even on the outside edge of the bib. And I'm going to work my way all the way around the entire bib. And when I get back to the end, I'm just going to overlap it. So here I am at the end. I'm going to turn the beginning piece down so that I have a nice clean edge. And I'm going to make sure my folds match up over here. So now, to finish off the entire edge, I'm going to take this and I'm going to roll it over to the back side. And I'm going to stitch that down all the way around. I just want to make sure that that kind of lines up nice on the side. So there it is. I've got the edge all bound. One side, it wrapped further than the other side. It doesn't really matter which is the front and which is the back. Kind of like this is the front. It looks a little more finished. You can dress it up from there. You can put an applique on it, or you can embroider the baby's name or anything you want on there, any kind of saying. You can use leftover binding and applique an initial. I happen to be a VO, which is a very easy initial. So you can do that, and then we'll put on the snap. The snap is a simple thing to do. They have a snap setter tool. It looks like this. It comes in 3 pieces. This one's a 16 on the top, but the bottom, which is where the decorative part of the snap goes, happens to be, this is a size 24, and it's interchangeable with the 16. What happens is you put the decorative part of the snap in there, and then you line it up where you want it to go on your fabric, and you can feel the prongs pushing through the fabric. Then you put your centerpiece in there, which is going to keep this hole lined up with where those prongs are underneath. And when you're using the decorative part of the snap, you're going to use what I call the innie piece. And that's what the prong pokes into, and that goes right there. And then you take your top, which has a piece that pounds down into that hole, and you line that up there, and you make sure that the piece is going down into the hole, and you give it a couple of taps with a hammer. When you pull it apart, your snap is set. Nice and strong. Now that's going to snap right there. So now I'm going to take my regular size bottom, which happens to be a 16, and I'm going to take this setter loop, and I'm going to center it over that spot there where I want it to snap, and I'm going to poke those little prongs. They're actually longer prongs than on a normal snap. I'm going to poke those through the terry cloth before I put my whole piece on top. And those prongs should be nicely set in there. And then I'm going to put my outie sticking up. And my top piece actually has a hole in it where the outie part fits. I don't know why I think of them like belly buttons. So there we go. And I give it a couple of taps. So simple. And there it is, nice and strong and set. So I can snap my bib onto the baby. Easy peasy. I've used things like corduroy to do the edge of a bib. I've made a long bib for an older child with a couple of snap options so that you can snap it down low if you've got a smaller baby's neck in there, and you can snap it up higher when the kid gets older. Heck, this would even fit an adult. So there's so many different options. This is just a starting point for you. Now the next bib we're going to do is going to be one with the top that looks like this. However long you want the bib to be. Or you can just keep it square if you want to. If you like, the end of the towel is already finished, so you would only have to finish the edges. Be creative. So I'm going to cut that out. I'm going to finish it around the edges with the binding again. But the neck is what's different on this. For the neck, we use an old t-shirt. I happen to have a t-shirt here. It's got a stain on it that won't come out. It's a little dingy. But it's also a very comfy material, and it has stretch. So I can make my neck piece out of that when I'm ready to attach it. I'll show you how to do that. Now it's time to bind the edge. And I'm going to start on this particular bib up at the neck. Fold it over on the top towards me, and I'm going to start at the end, and I'm going to come all the way around, and I'm going to end right here. and fold that end over as well. So I went all the way around with my binding. Now it's time to flip the binding over to the other side and stitch it down again. So I finished stitching it back to the other side, and one side you can see a little bit more of the binding on, and the other side you see a little bit less. It's up to you which side you want to be the front. It doesn't really matter, so I think I like this side better. It's a little cleaner looking. So now it's time to put on the neck, and I have this old t-shirt, and I'm going to just chop it out. I'm not going to use the hem that's on the bottom. So first of all, let me cut the hem off. Turn this so you can see what I'm doing. I'm gonna cut it at 12 inches, and we'll go from there. 1, 2, 3, 4 inches wide by 12 inches. And I'm not using that piece that has a stain on it. This right here gives me 2 pieces for 2 separate bibs. What's going to happen is it's going to fold in half. It's going to get a seam. And I have to make sure that that can stretch over a baby's head. So I've sewn it down the long edge and across one top. Now I can turn it right side out. Just going to poke it with this little tool and push it through. And then I'll put the seam in the back and we'll attach it to the bib. This is the edge with the seam in it that gets put on the neck of the bib. So I've stitched it all the way around, and I'm coming to the end, and I just want to make sure that it overlaps a little bit. So here we come to the end. I'm going to double stitch right off the edge of the terry cloth, and then I'm actually going to release the thread so that there's some stretch still, and this gets put on top of that like that with just a little top stitching. And that should be enough to hold it. So there's our bib, all done. Little turtleneck. Now you can decorate it any way you want. And so here's a towel that's really, really shrunk up along that decorative border, and it doesn't look good anymore. It's got frayed edges. We're going to use that to make a bib. So I'm just going to avoid holes and stuff that I see when I cut out my pattern, and I can see that that'll fit nicely right in there. So I'm going to cut that out. We'll make another bib with another neck on. For attaching the neck, I've got to put this binding on. This is a single width of fabric strip that I cut 2 inches wide and folded in half and pressed. And you can see that it's a little more than I need. So I'm just going to fold that down, even with the edge of the bib. So I made my neck piece ahead of time, and I turned it right side out. One end is already finished shut. Now the other end I'm going to turn in and stitch shut as well. So there are no raw edges showing on this t-shirt material. So if it's attached along this seam line, I'm going to leave about an inch hanging off the end. And I'm going to start attaching it to the edge. And I want to make sure that it's pulled out all the way as I go all the way around. I'm going to kind of stretch it as I go because I want it to be as big as it could possibly be to get around the kid's head. I want to end up with extra on the end. So, making it sure that I'm stretching it as much as I can. So now that I've got it attached all the way around the neck, I'm going to attach the neck and the back, and I'm just going to overlap the edge that does not have the seam on it. It's the stretchier edge. I'm going to overlap it, and I'm going to stitch a square with an X in it right here to hold that together in that spot. Bunch of bibs, and I can't think of a better way to use up some old tired towels and t-shirts. So let's recycle, reuse.